Hey everybody, Raven here with another episode of Coin Shop Talk with my partner in coin crime, Stephanie, and cameraman, Sean. Today, we're going to talk about United States half dollars. We're going to start off with the cat bust and go all the way to the Kennedy half and talk about the things in between. But first of all, we're going to start you off with the cat bust half. Now, these are very beautiful coins, and John Reich designed this cat bust head concept of the Liberty. The cat bust style was used on most other silver coins and denominations for the next 30 years. A German immigrant, Reich became an engraver for the United States Mint and served from 1807 to 1817. Now, the cat bust coin went up to 1839 and is absolutely one of the most beautiful coins you can find, especially when they're in the higher grades. But the higher grades, my goodness, the money can get really crazy. You have the 1817 7/4, $108,000, if you can recognize it in a G4. You know, $3,000 for the 1813, 1812 2/1 with a large 8, and then of course the 1807. It's the bearded Liberty, which basically the cat bust girl had a little bit of a beard going on.
Bearded lady. Oh, lordy.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of the cat busts that are actually obtainable. You know, some of them are as low as $70 in the G4, but anything higher, you can see they can get some substantial money. Like this one here in an MS60 is $60,000. MS63 at $3,900, $11,000, $7,000. You know, so of course, like any other coin, you're going to be paying that premium for that extra nice item.
But like any other coin that you collect, you want to buy the nicest you can find that you can afford.
Exactly. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the seated Liberty half dollar. Now, the seated Liberty half dollar was minted from 1839 to 1891. Now, the 1861 O only had 330,000 of them struck, which is pretty crazy. I really like the seated design, and there's a lot of stuff. There's no motto, there's drape, there's no drape, there's arrows, there's a lot of variety in this coin, and is one of the more, again, beautiful coins. I mean, I honestly wish the United States Mint would bring back some of the old artwork and filigree to the coins and currencies, because it's amazing. Now, some of the ones you really want to look at for is the 1842 small date and letters, $10,000 in just a G4. I mean, that is absolutely insane. And then if you look here,
change.
yeah, $36,000 for a VF20, and they don't think anything exists past that, according to the Red, because there's no pricing for it, or it's just so high, they don't think it's really obtainable. As you go through here, the 1847 7/6, $2,500 for a G4, $24,000 in mint state. You know,
But there's a few key dates. There's a few errors in there that are going to be worth a little bit more if you can find them.
those overdates really seem to be the ones that you're really looking for. And it's one of those coins, again, that it's absolutely beautiful when you can find it in pristine condition. To give you an idea, if you could find yourself an 1878S, $31,000, because they only minted 62,000 of those. But you know what's weird? I'm sorry, 12,000. But here's something really strange. This only has 4,800 that they minted, 415. You know, so sometimes there's no rhyme or reason in this book, other than certain coins get some nostalgia attached to the date. Kind of like take the Morgan dollar, for example, the 1895 that everybody's like, oh, that's the one I need to have.
Exactly.
The only reason that one is so popular is because Whitman put it in the book. You know, had Whitman not put it in the book, people wouldn't have paid as much attention, because there's a lot more proof coins out there that are Morgan dollars. And I know this is a subject jump, but that's what I was getting into in this, that certain dates, certain mint marks will bring more money even though they're not as rare. It's really kind of different. All right, so that now leads us into the coin that was really unpopular back in its day, the Barber half. That went from 1892 to 1915, And when you find them in uncirculated conditions and even the proofs, they're actually a nice coin. But something Stephanie and I were talking about is this is probably one of the most masculine looking coins, even though it's supposed to represent a female. You know, it literally looks like, you know, it's a guy wearing a Santa hat almost, you know.
Yeah.
And but again, some of these coins in the Barber series can be insanely expensive. You have the 1892 Micro O for New Orleans, $33,500 for an MS60.
Yikes.
Plenty of them that are in the $8,000 and a couple $1,000 range. Because what's interesting about Barbers is this is one of the most abused coins that was ever put into circulation. People didn't really like them, so they didn't really hold on to them. That's why finding ones in higher grades is actually very rare, and that's why when you look at it, it commands such money in the higher grades. Like, take for instance this coin here, the 1904S. It's a $70 coin at a G4, but if you get an MS63, $18,000 because
Condition rarity.
condition and rarity, exactly. You know, I mean, and there's some better dates in here that have less mintage. Like this has 505,000. It only goes up to 1250 for an MS60 and 1900 for an MS63. So a lot of people, you know, they like the New Orleans and they like, you know, again, that same nomenclature that we talked about before. Mint marks that have a more higher demand, just like any commodity or item that you buy on the market.
Because those mints are not around, so people enjoy seeing what you don't see anymore. So there's the history to it. You know, it just... All right, next we're going to talk about the Walking Liberty $50, my personal favorite. I think it's the prettiest coin out there. I really like the design on the half. I think it looks better on the half than even on the eagle itself, the American Eagles.
It's a really pretty coin, and it was hoarded pretty heavily, you know.
And I can see why. It's really much prettier than the previous coin, the Barber we just talked about. Just a vast difference. And then, of course, there's a few that are you're going to find your key dates in there. And several of these, early on, they started out with the mint mark on the obverse, and then they traded or changed that to the reverse. So there's a few different varieties you're going to find in those first early years, which is fun. And you want to keep going. The 21s really are the ones to look at. All three 21s are going to be a little bit more pricey because there's not a million of those like there are of everything else.
Yeah, the mintage on those was extremely low because that was the beginning of the Great Depression.
Right, so the D is the one to look for, but really all of them in 21 are key dates. Switcheroo.
And the Walker went from 1916 to 1940.
47s. Okay, now the rare one in this one, remind me, Raven. I want to say on this
It's going to be that double die.
Yeah, that's the error. So, you know, there's a few key dates, semi-key dates, and that's the one error to look for with these. But
And so one thing to point out is that you notice you can see that it has a grading as high as MS65. And that's because once this came out, people hoarded them more often. You know, the economy was doing better, and people truly liked the design a lot more. So
now when you see these, you're going to see the most wear right down the middle because that's the highest part on the coin. So that's the first place you want to look if you're looking for the better quality ones. It's just right down the middle.
And for the reverse, you want to look at the breast feathers and the shin feathers. And that will let you know, that you have a really top-notch design.
I don't know. I like the symmetry in this because on the obverse you've got Walking Liberty and on the reverse you've got the Walking Eagle. That's just my favorite. I just love it.
Very cool.
And we're on Walker.
That's true.
89th and Walker.
Yeah.
All right, and next on to Franklin $50, which I lovingly refer to as Frankles. 1948 to 1963. Now these, all of them, 90% silver. They're a little bit older, and they're more easily obtainable. None of these is really skyrocket on price. Your key date really is going to be the 52S. Here, they didn't make very many. And see, even in, they don't even start these until AU. Anything below that, really, we just buy it as 90%. Yeah. some things with these, there was the weak strike, so they don't quite look as nice or not quite as sharp. But it is a highly collectible coin. Again, they are older, they're all silver, and they're all moderately priced, so they're easily to obtain. And there are a few fun little differences. Here are the 55s. You run across one with the Bugs Bunny. And this is a, what do they call that? Clash? No.
No, that would be
the error.
That would be a kind of like a dyed chip.
Right. So there's a little bit of extra planchet, so it makes him look like he's got Bugs Bunny teeth, or maybe vampire fangs.
Right.
I think it kind of makes him look like he's got a little bit of a mustache that is overgrown. Maybe he needs a shave.
Looking like Raven on a rough day. And one thing to consider about Franklin Halves is the full bell lines.
Yes.
Because these dies were so well used, they made so many of them, it's really hard to get this back part to have the entire full lines that go across the bottom of the bell. And so there is a differentiation between a full bell line and a not full bell line.
That's having a tough time.
Do you want me to go like that?
Yeah.
Well, similarly to full steps
Take our word for
on
it.
the Lincoln nickel, and
Yep.
then on the back of the dime, you want to have
The Mercury full split bands.
the bands. So this is one of those unique little things. They like to have all of them. And what does the grade start at where you start to see those?
Usually the lowest is going to be an AU 58 roughly, and then of course all the way up. But the AU seeing a full bell or full bands is a lot rarer.
Yes.
And unfortunately, a full band in an AU is still really not that pricey. It's when you get into the higher grades that you really tend to see something great. The crazy thing is that out of the Franklins, it's the 63 Denver
Really?
full bands that brings the most money on the full bands, which is crazy. But that year, by 63, it was the last year, those dies were so worn out that it's almost impossible to get
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Then that leads us into the Kennedy half.
Which
Now,
everyone looks at the Kennedys for the silver. So from 64 to present. So 64, the first year, is the only Kennedy half that's 90% silver. They were then 40% silver, 65 to 70.
and the
then
76.
Yeah, and then some of them in 76, they were part of the sets or the 40%ers.
And we don't have much in the way of slab or grade. Oh, we got a.
There's not a key date Kennedy.
The one you're looking for is in the proof set. That's the accented hair.
Right, and that's 57.
No, 64.
Okay.
It's the 64 proof set. And then.
The first one, not 57.
The very
64.
first year of the proof set. And then as you go through the years, a lot of them really aren't worth that much. Even in a proof 70, the silver one's retailing at 58. There is 2011 and 12. For some reason, those have a higher value. But for the most part, Kennedy halves are one of the most collected, one of the most easily obtainable, but again, you're not really going to get anything special. There is some double and triple dyeing that happens on the 64 itself that people look out for. There's the no FGs. Those are worth a little more. And then...
little varieties.
Yeah, there's other double dyes that are out there. So,
and you'd mentioned about the 2012, the proof on that one. That year, the proof set was scarce. I think the proof set is higher on that year than all the ones around it. So
exactly. That's a very valid point. Stephanie knows her stuff, guys. Don't forget it.
And then I wanted to point out this guy down here, this new grading system. We have opinions about that.
Right. So what I think this is just an attempt to try to differentiate their market and say, hey, we're following the same grading scale as baseball cards and stuff. But it actually irritates a lot of coin collectors because a 9.9 is literally a 69. It's not that hard to convert it, but a lot of people don't want to convert it because they don't feel they should have to.
Well, you're converting a 70-point scale to a 100-point scale, and I'm not a sports card collector. However, I would think that the criteria for grading cards versus coins would be different.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a lot of our older constituents that are just kind of like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I got a 9.6. What's that mean? You tell them MS66, and they're like, why didn't they just say MS66?
Exactly.
They've been doing it their whole lives one way, and then they want to do Common Core math on us.
It's not broke. Don't fix it.
Yep.
I need a conversion chart.
And that happens quite a bit. You know, there's a couple different things that they've tried to do to coins in the last couple years that just really should just be left alone. Sometimes, like Stephanie just said, if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
And I appreciate that they're trying to build interest, get back into coin collecting. However, I think the way they're going about it, it's not making the coins aren't being more valuable. They're just a little bit different.
Like the one, I got excited at first when they were doing the little bank bag thing. Well, then I started going, wait a second. What does it matter that it came out of a bank bag? I mean, that's how it was. That's like taking a piece of the paper roll on a penny roll and saying, original wrapped penny, punching out 150 of those little suckers to pull more money out of people's pockets, because it's really kind of a money grab when you have those little gimmicks and whatnot. So that finally leads us into something really cool that we're going to touch on last, and that is commemorative half dollars. I'm going to let Stephanie take over for a little here.
All righty. Let's find that in the book. All right. Now with commems, we're not going to go too deep into these because there are just so many. Here's the first 2 pages.
They could literally be their own video just on the commems.
They're really exciting. I mean, there's so much difference. There's a lot of history. Some of these were made but wait, there's more. As fundraisers for their different projects and the commemorative things. But really, I just appreciate the history and the artwork. We finally got some coins that are different.
And they're hard to come by.
Yes.
90% silver, the classic commems. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with the modern commems that you can get. The half dollars are not silver. They come in the little sets with the silver dollars, and they're either proof or uncirculated. These were circulated, so it's a little bit more fun to try to find them in the different grades and things. So you see we've got some here, more circulated versus not.
Yeah. So this one here is actually a really rare one. It's called the 2x2, and it'd be kind of hard to see in the camera, but literally right there it says 2x2. There's also a 4x2 variety. And so not only is this one super pricey and collectible, but when you get the 2x2, it makes it even exponentially more expensive.
One of those special varieties that's more valuable.
Yeah. Now, this one here came out of Vault Box. And that's a special, that's one of those money grab kind of things that we were talking about where, they put...
It's red.
Well, and
let's pay more for it.
You pay more to get a chance.
Super high grade.
Oh yeah, this is a great coin. You get a super high chance to get something nicer, but yet, when you're paying $500-600 and you're risking getting a coin worth $200 versus $800, you're basically gambling for your goods. In the commemorative halves, though, the classics, there's some really phenomenal ones. The Oregon Trail, the Texas. This one here from Vermont, I love that coin. And then the really rare one to get's Hawaiian. The Hawaii one is like ridiculous money. But, we hope you guys enjoyed getting to take a look at the classic commemoratives and all the United States half dollars we have. If you want to come visit us, we're at
9118 South Walker, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73139.
If you want to correspond, it's ravenhawkcoins@gmail.com. Our P.O. Box is 721-296, Norman, Oklahoma, 73070. Like always, please make sure to take care of one another, and we'll see you real soon. Ravenhawk Coins, have a great day.